let's talk about your new podcast. Things must be going badly for you, first of all, Rob, because you've turned to podcasting. I've been podcasting for 15 years, which will let you know how badly my career has been going. But it's a hit podcast. It's already doing incredibly well. There are 3 episodes out as we speak, and we're actually are we talking on the anniversary of the 60th anniversary?
Yes, this is the 60th anniversary of the assassination of John Kennedy.
Yeah, so you've done a podcast, 10-part podcast, 3 parts out so far, called "Who Killed JFK." It's something that obviously has been discussed a lot, and there's been a lot of theories, and some of them debunked and some of them not. What's drawn you to this subject, and why do you want to podcast about it?
Well, anyone who was alive at that time, which I was, you'll never ever forget where you were when you heard that news. It just stays with you. I was in my high school physics class, and a student walked in and whispered in the teacher's ear, and he turned to us and he said, "I have some terrible news." And he told us what had happened. And everybody was shocked. We were all sent home from school. We went to our televisions and we watched nonstop. It was a massive national trauma that hit the entire country. We were all unified in that traumatic experience. And I actually saw on live television the man who was accused of killing President Kennedy, Lee Harvey Oswald, was himself murdered by this local mob-connected nightclub owner named Jack Ruby. So it never left me. I mean, if you think about a loved one being murdered and you don't know why and you don't know who did it, you're just never going to rest until you find out the answers. You want to know the answers. So those of us who were alive at the time and who were traumatized by it want to know the truth about what happened. And so over 60 years, you've seen drips and drabs of truths that have come out, little bits of evidence here and there. There's a news report about this and about that. And unless you're following it, unless you are interested in it, you don't put all those pieces together. They don't mean much in a disparate form like that. So what I tried to do with this 10-part podcast, and I host it with Soledad O'Brien, who's an award-winning journalist. She just got inducted into the Journalism Hall of Fame.
Wow.
We put it all together. We take all the information that we've accumulated over 60 years and put it in one place so people can really understand what exactly happened that day. And by the 10th episode, we lay out exactly who we think was involved, how they did it, and we name shooters, and we also name positions where the shooters were. Now, we can't be 100% sure, but the one thing we can be 100% sure is it was a conspiracy. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. If you take all the information together, there is no way on this God's earth that one person, Lee Harvey Oswald, shot the president from the 6th floor. And I'll give you one hint, because I'm not going to tell you. You have to listen to the whole thing to get the foundation, to understand the whole foundation of it and why we come to the conclusion we do. I'm not just going to throw it out there because you'll say, "Oh, that's crackpot. It's like everybody else is a crackpot." I'll give you one hint, because we approach it like a murder mystery, which is what it is. We call it the greatest murder mystery in American history. And we approach it as detectives to look at what happened. You look at the suspects, who had the motive. You look at the forensics. You look at the situation surrounding it that caused it. And the one thing I can tell you, and that's, if you think about this, and you have to really, the first shot from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, which is where the Warren Commission said the shots came from. They said 3 shots came from the book depository. The first shot missed the entire motorcade. And that's all you need to know. Why would a sharpshooter who was whose job it is, or who's what he thinks he's going to do, is kill the president. And he's a brilliant marksman because they only had 3 shots.
Yeah.
The first shot misses the entire motorcade.
That's a good
Why
point.
is that? I'm asking you that question because we're going to answer why that was in the context of the thing. The other thing you have to know is there were 2, they said there were 3 shots. The first one missed, and then there were 2 shots remaining. One of the shots we know was the death shot that killed the president. It hit his head and it blew the brains. It was horrific.
Yeah.
The second shot, that was the last shot. The second shot is the one that blows the whole idea of a single gunman apart, completely apart. And they call that the single bullet theory. And in the Warren Commission, their theory is that from the 6th floor of a building, a shot entered the president's back 6 to 8 inches below his neck, traveled upward, came out his throat, made a turn, and Governor Connolly was sitting in front of him, made a turn, then hit Connolly in the ribs, broke his ribs, exited there, made another turn, went into his wrist, broke his wrists, made another turn, and then wound up in his thigh and was recovered in the hospital. And it's on record in the Warren Commission and in the National Archives, and it's a pristine bullet.
Yeah.
If you believe that one gun did all that, then you can, okay, then it's a single shooter up there. But it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous on its surface. And so then it opens the door to there were others involved. Then we get into who was involved, how they were involved, what was the situation that allowed those forces to come together. And you'll hear it in the podcast.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating already, and I know you make very good points about that, and it feels at the very best, and I know this is just early doors. All you could say is that they didn't. The government, the CIA, didn't want to create a situation where there was any doubt about any question about what happened, so just made up a story and hope they could put it to bed. And
we have proof of that.
Yeah.
There's a phone call between J. Edgar Hoover and Lyndon Johnson, who was the new president. And in that phone call, they talk about, we've got to make sure that we don't have a lot of investigations here. We don't want this to get out of control. We have to make sure that it's focused on Oswald. And in the conversation, they actually say, they talk about the shooter, they don't say one, but we got to make sure that it's Oswald, that everybody knows it's Oswald. Then there's a very famous memo that came from the Deputy Attorney General that said the public has to be made comfortable and be made assured that Lee Harvey Oswald was the only gunman. They actually say that, and this is a memo that was sent 2-3 days after the assassination. So there you have it.